Everyone is jealous of what you've got. No one is jealous of how you got it.
Hustle, hustle, hustle.
When you're growing in a business, it's very painful. When you're stagnating in a business and you're plateaued and you don't know what to do, it's very painful. When you're declining and you also don't know what to do, it's very painful. And so that means that all conditions of reality are painful.
The difference between the really good ones and the ones that don't make it are the ones that don't make it know how to be a victim. They feel sorry for themselves, they blame the next guy, and they don't take the responsibility as their own. And that's what an entrepreneur does. You're the boss, it's your problem, period. It's your problem, it rests with you. Now what are you going to do about it?
A beginner has binary thinking. So they think this worked or it didn't work. And if it didn't work, then I need a new idea. Rather than having the nuanced thinking of a master or an expert or advanced person who says, what about this, if I click into it, I break it into its component parts, what about this didn't work? It's always in the details. It's always in the sifting through the many small things that you find the kernel that ends up fixing the business. I mean, and you develop that expertise by trying and failing.
Yeah.
And that's just the name of the game. And so I think you have to have an incredibly high tolerance for failure without internalizing it and feeling like you yourself are a failure as a result of failure.
The best thing you can do is to be exceptionally good at something. If you're the best doctor in town, if you're the best lawyer in town, if you're the best whatever it may be, they can't actually be inflated away from you. So the best investment by far is anything that develops yourself.
Think about the things that are not going to change over 10 years, and those are probably the big things.
When I think about a business and I want to grow it, for example, I would think, okay, what are all the things that can destroy this business? And this is Charlie Munger, this isn't me. But basically, he says, invert, always invert. And Einstein said that too. And it's because like you get to use this way stronger horsepower engine of like, how do I grow my business? You could obviously think that way. But the alternative would be like, how would I absolutely destroy this business in the fewest possible moves? And then when you list out those moves, you're like, cool, now let's do the opposite of that.
Why are you going to watch someone doing something when you can go out in the world and do it yourself?
Any massive company that you know of has existed for multiple decades. And in order for something to exist for multiple decades, the founder has to stay focused on that thing for the whole time. And I measure focus by the quantity and quality of things that you say no to. And I measure commitment, or I define commitment as the elimination of alternatives. And so if you think of marriage as the ultimate commitment, then it is the ultimate commitment because you've eliminated literally every alternative besides this person. And so I think that many business problems and many entrepreneurs would 5x, 10x their business if they simply gave themselves no way out. This is what I'm doing. And the term, burning the boats, but I'm eliminating all alternatives and structuring my life such that I make it very difficult to pursue the alternatives. I think one of the biggest misconceptions when you're an entrepreneur is not understanding the difference between being an owner and being the CEO. And so they might hear that you have a portfolio, they might hear that I have a portfolio and be like, okay, well, they have a portfolio, so I must model that. That guy's tall, I should play basketball. Doesn't work that way, right? So if I want to be rich, I should fly private. Doesn't work that way, right? It's conflating order. And so we must do these things in order to get the outcome. We have to concentrate on only one thing in order to get the outsized return. And that spreading of attention, especially when you're newer in the entrepreneurial career, it's like you already don't know so many things. How do you now want to have 3 sets of unknowns that you want to try and conquer at the same time? And the fallacy of thinking is that I'm going to try all of them and see which one works, but none of them will work because you're waiting to see which one will work. There are 6 stages. You have stage 1, which is uninformed optimism. This is where you see your friend or you see something online and it looks like they're making money or it looks like there's some opportunity and you think, oh my God, that sounds amazing. And you have optimism because it looks great, but it's uninformed because you have no idea what it entails. So then you dive in and you say, okay, I'm gonna pursue this thing, whatever is it, baking cupcakes, or I'm gonna do lawn mowing, or I'm gonna do crypto trading, whatever. Second step is you get into it and you're like, oh my God, I don't know. There's so many things involved in this and this is significantly more complicated than I expected. So then you become an informed pessimist. You now know that it's hard or significantly harder than you expected. The third stage is you have your crisis of meaning or the valley of despair. So you're continuing to do this stuff. It's continuing to not work, and you keep working, and it keeps not working. And so this is the step, and this is the point of truth. And this is the cycle where the paths of the entrepreneur split. And the vast majority of people take this next step, which is they then say, you know what? There's that thing over there that my other friend's doing. Maybe I should do that instead. And so then they hop back to uninformed optimism, and then they go boom to informed pessimism, and they just go around and around and around, and they live the same 6 months for 20 straight years. Now, the other path from the valley of despair is sticking with it. And so then you become an informed optimist, because now you still understood all the bad stuff, but you also understand the good stuff and how to avoid the bad and maximize the good. And then once you're there, you stick on that path long enough and you end up achieving what you originally thought was really easy and fast. I think that the vast majority of organizations have no idea how to train, and their entire training, their way of getting talent is just, let's hire 10 and we'll just see who works out, rather than being able to take someone and level them up. And I think that the ability to train is one of the largest alphas that exist in organizations, because if you can buy talent at B skill and get them to A+, then you net the delta in profit between what you had to attract and pay the person to come and what they perform at. If you have to use a picking strategy, then you have to pay for current market rate of the skill. Mm-hmm. And so you actually eat into margin because you don't know how to train. There are advantages to speed, and sometimes it still makes sense to bring in the talent because maybe the training requires so much time that it's not worth it. And so from a hiring perspective, because I know we were just talking, this is the theme, we always want to hire for the smallest skill deficiency. And so in low-skilled labor, for example, if we have a cupcake bakery and I need somebody to work the counter, that is pretty low-skilled labor. And so if there's a number of skills that are required, being able to be on time, smile, be nice, those things are bundled terms that have many skills underneath of them, right? Whereas teaching someone how to use the register might take like 30 minutes. And so it makes sense to hire for attitude and then train aptitude when you have low-skilled labor. When you have really high-skilled labor, I can't teach someone 10 years of being a CFO for M&A. This is an extreme example, right? And so in that instance, we still hire for the smallest skill deficiency, but I can probably teach someone to be nice under these circumstances faster than I can teach them to be a CFO. If they have everything that I want here, obviously you would want both, but the world isn't perfect. And so we just try to hire for the smallest skill gap, and attitude is a series of skills. And so instead of thinking of things in attitude and aptitude, just think of everything as skills, and then we hire always for the smallest deficiency. Demonstrations of the difference between a beginner and an expert. A beginner has binary thinking. So they think this worked or it didn't work. And if it didn't work, then I need a new idea. Rather than having the nuanced thinking of a master or an expert or advanced person who says, what about this, if I click into it, I break it into its component parts, what about this didn't work? Okay, it's not that meta ads don't work or advertising doesn't work. It's that we didn't nail the hook in our ad, or that we didn't make our offer clear enough on the landing page, or it was not congruent with the advertisement, or it was the offer itself wasn't very compelling, or it was just this. Everyone's coming in and saying, yeah, I kind of want that, but this is actually my issue. We're not solving the core problem. So it's always in the details. It's always in the sifting through the many small things that you find the kernel that ends up fixing the business. I mean, I know that Facebook was trying to fix their virality issue, and they were locked in a room for days trying to figure out how they could get more users to retain on the platform, right? People would sign up, but then they wouldn't do anything, and then they'd drop out. And so finally, Zuck just said, okay, we have some belief that if people have more friends, that they will engage. And so they didn't, and here's the thing, like with the uncertainty, they couldn't prove it. He just was like, I feel like that's better than them not having friends. And so he said, all right, the new goal is 10 friends in 14 days. That's the goal. So we have to create the experience so that we can get it to introduce them to 10 people or connect them with 10 people that they already know on the platform within 14 days. And as soon as that happened, then obviously Facebook took off or continued to grow. And so he wasn't like, oh, Facebook doesn't work anymore or social networks aren't going to be a thing. It's usually way smaller and way the adjustment you need to make is much more nuanced than what you originally expect. If the foundational principle of like cutting hair, mowing lawns, whatever, it's like this problem exists and I can charge a certain amount and make a profit on it, then there's nothing wrong with the business. It's just what is the constraint that's holding us back? And then usually zooming into the constraint and realizing there's 20 things that are contributing to the outcome, not one. And that's where expertise and you develop that expertise by trying and failing.
Yeah.
And that's just the name of the game. And so I think you have to have an incredibly high tolerance for failure without internalizing it and feeling like you yourself are a failure as a result of failure. The potential of an organization is directly correlated with the aggregate intellectual horsepower of everyone contained within it. And so if you are the smartest person in the business, and you can do everyone's job better than everyone in your company, then it means that the limit of the business is purely based on one person's horsepower and one person's life experiences. And that will be the cap. And basically, it doesn't matter how smart you are, you can't live 100 lifetimes. Like you can learn quickly, sure, there's some people who can learn faster than others, but you're not gonna be able to live 1,000 lifetimes. And so, as a business grows, more expertise is required. And I think the easiest litmus test for this is if you look at the richest people in the world, almost none of them own 100% of their business. So number one, most of them don't even own 50. Like most of them are small percentages. Jensen Huang's at 4% for NVIDIA. Bezos is at 7 or 9% for Amazon. I think Elon's at 20 for Tesla, like small percentages. And it's because it takes a lot of horses to take a chariot to the moon, right? And so basically, as you put in more intellectual horsepower, the potential peak of the business goes so much higher, so much faster. Keith Verbois he was one of the original PayPal Mafia guys, has a really good analogy for this. And he talks about it in terms of barrels and ammunition. And he says, so as soon as you get some product market fit, the business starts to grow and you say, okay, we need to start shipping things faster. And this works the same with a services business, a physical products business, software business, the concept's the same. And so what happens is you then hire a lot of people and you assume that your throughput is going to increase proportionally. So we have 10 people, we hire 50, we should 5x our output. And then you quickly realize that that is not the case. And so what happens is there are people who are rate limiters for an organization, and those are the barrels. So think about like a Civil War barrel, old cannon, and you've got these cannonballs next to it. He said most people are ammunition. And so you bring more ammunition, but you're still gonna be limited by the one barrel capacity of how many shots can get taken by the barrel. And so you need to find more barrels. So you have to go from 1 barrel to 2 barrels, 2 barrels to 3 barrels. And that becomes an increase in capacity or throughput for the organization. And there are very few of those. In a different, I can't remember the law, but it's some organizational law, but the square root of the number of people in a company generate 50% of the work. So if you have 100 people in an organization, 10 people are responsible for 50% of the value that's created.
Facts.
Right. And so the thing is I think the real game of entrepreneurship is that your standards rise over time. And it's unfortunate because we hear things that other entrepreneurs tell us, it's all about the people, stupid. And then you're like, sure, but look at and it's like, no, you're not hearing it. And I don't know, there are some, I think Williamson talks about this, how there's like some lessons that for some reason, it's like we have to learn for ourselves. I still believe that it's like we can operationalize this at a lower level so that we don't have to learn it for ourselves. But like I'm convinced, I haven't figured it out yet. But so every entrepreneur can resonate with this, which is every business that I've started, I've gotten to the success of the business prior way faster. And I kind of liken it to a video game where it's like you beat level 1 and then, you get to level 2 and it's like you spend months trying to beat this boss and you finally figure out how to beat the boss and it's like great. And then you spend another 3 months beating boss 3. And let's say you start the game over with a new character. It's like you just zoom through level 1, 2, and 3 and then you get to level 4 and you're like, shoot, now I got to spend time. It's like virgin land. Like, I don't know how to beat this yet. And so I think that happens for archetype finding, for skill and talent within an organization. And so—
Say that again.
So if you have functions across an organization, there are people who are going to drive results within that function. And the first time you hire a salesperson, for example, you don't know what you're looking for. And so you just hire a human who says they can sell. And maybe they can, maybe they can't. And then you cycle through, you try to train them, that doesn't work, does work, whatever. And then finally, let's say you cycle through 3 sales guys and finally you find a killer. And then you have this pattern recognition, you're like, okay, that's what I'm looking for. And then all of a sudden you try and approximate that person or that archetype as much as you can. And so when you start your second company, you're like, oh, I can quickly staff up sales because I know what I'm looking for. But then you're like, shoot, I've never really nailed sales manager yet. And so then you cycle through, you start whacking away at the boss, and then you have to end up firing the boss at the level because you're like, oh God, this didn't work. And then 6 months are gone because you had to find them, recruit them, hire them, train them, and then find out they sucked, and then start over again. And maybe it takes 18 months to really find the right sales manager. And then you're like, okay, I know what that looks like. But I still don't have a director of marketing. What does that look like? And so it's basically developing this pattern recognition across all functions of the business so that you know what exceptional looks like. And then over time, what happens is as a business grows, your ability to attract talent increases. And so then your standards also grow. And then you find out that there's even more nuance to this, which is that there's a director of sales at a $1 to $10 million level, which is a different looking person from $10 to $100 million level. And it continues to go all the way up. And so it's basically building this repertoire of identifying patterns. And what if you talk to, I would say, more experienced entrepreneurs now, they don't talk about building businesses. It's like assembling. You just assemble the pieces and you just know that this is how it's all going to flow together. And that fundamentally is basically what I try and decode within the content that I have, so that it's like, here's a pattern for how you can recognize this. Here's a pattern for how you recognize this, so that you can just move faster through the levels to get to where you want to go. And so to loop back to the original question, which is how important are people in an organization? People are the organization. And so if you ever want to build enterprise value, it's building the collective consciousness of the organization, the skills and how they collaborate together towards a specific outcome. And so knowing how to staff that up is the job. So the simplest way of attracting somebody to your business when you don't know how to do the job or know who to look for is to, unfortunately, do the job yourself. And then once you can break down the job, we follow 3 Ds, which is document, demonstrate, duplicate. That's how we train anybody. So first, you have to document everything that you do to successfully do the job. And that's step by step into a checklist. Then you demonstrate. So you do this checklist in front of the person that you're trying to bring on. Then they duplicate, they do the checklist in front of you. What's interesting about that 3-step process is that you'll often find when you try to demonstrate following the checklist, you don't follow your checklist. And so then you have to adjust the checklist until you actually follow the checklist. And then when you can consistently follow that checklist and get the output, then you can have them do that checklist. And so I think this is why bootstrap founders, I think oftentimes will find they tend to know more about more things because they had to learn them in order to teach them. Now, what's really interesting about what you said about accidentally finding that star at 3 or 4 years in is that I think that happens to almost everyone. Well, hopefully the people who end up making it happens to almost everyone. Because then you realize, oh my God, like if I had 4 of these people, like we could change the world. So it was one of the first people that you're like, oh my God, I hired that person, it changed everything. So my CFO in Gym Launch had taken 4 companies from 0 to 100 million. She had done over 40 M&A transactions. Her largest one was 5 billion, super experienced. She was at the very end of her career. And she was like, I'll take you guys, I'll take this one last ride with you guys. And so, mind you, Layla and I'm 26 or 27 at the time. Layla's 23, 24, and we're sitting across the table from a very experienced business person being like, please help us. And so one of the things that she taught me that I will never forget is she said, the grass is always greener on the other side. You just don't know that it's fertilized. And she's Southern, so she had this deep Southern accent. She's like, there's everywhere. And so she's like, I've been in enough businesses to know that all businesses have. And so you don't know about, do know about, and you're in this business. And so this is, And that has been so profoundly impactful in my life because it was so hard for me to break the cycle, really hard for me. I gave you my life story of the many businesses that I've been involved in. And so like the entrepreneurial ADD has been so real for me. And I've made some of the biggest career mistakes by just pursuing and splitting my attention between multiple endeavors. And the thing is we have a linear life. And so it's an unfair but true comparison of the opportunity cost. And every exceptionally successful entrepreneur that I know has just stuck with one thing for such an inordinate amount of time. And I think there's a quote by, I want to say Shane Parrish, but he said, success is doing the obvious thing for an extraordinary period of time without believing that you're smarter than you are. And it's just like, we know what we need to do, so we don't need to make our lives more complex. Complexity will come with scale, I promise. And so just simply trying to do more of what you're already doing well is already hard enough. Don't add anything else. And so like, if you need to write some sort of commitment of like, I'm just going to stick with this, then do that. What happens is, when we were talking about the levels earlier, about like beating the bosses. So what happens is, you know how to beat boss 1 through 3 of the game. And so then you just say, okay, well, I'm just gonna start the game over and beat boss. I mean, this time it's gonna be different. But then you just get to level 3 again, and then you're stuck again. And so people just keep getting up to level 3 and new endeavors over and over again because they never learned how to get past that boss. And so you just have to confront the uncertainty of knowing that you don't know how to do it, but that you will figure it out if you keep doing enough repetitions. And that's where you talk to as many people as you can. You see what they said, you consolidate it all, and you say, I think this is the highest likely path. It might not work, but I do believe fundamentally that if we cut people's hair well, and we do it for a long period of time, we will have a thriving business. And if we have a really good model from that thing, we might be able to open up another location. And if we keep our costs down, we might be able to have an actual model that we could either invest our own capital or bring somebody else and take it national. Or like all of these, like I have yet to find a business that can't get to $100 million a year, that has a permutation of it that exists. You're a dry cleaner, fine. Well, cool, we'll build the model, and either we're gonna license the model, we can franchise the model out, we can get outside investors, we can scale it nationally, we can do it. But the crazy goals are only crazy because people have crazy timelines. They're actually very sane goals if you extend the timeline out. If you have a true 10-year goal or a true 20-year goal, almost anything's accomplishable. I mean, almost every multi-billion-dollar company is about, it's usually between like years 6 and 10 when companies get to kind of like those big numbers. And most people who are listening to this are 5 years into entrepreneurship, but you're 6 months into the thing that you've been working on right now. And you keep restarting the clock for getting to year 10 every time you start over. And I think that's the part that it took me a very long time to figure out. And I think it takes a lot of entrepreneurs. Like everyone messes around with a lot of stuff in the beginning because you just don't know what you're doing. And so in my experience, it takes about 5 years for most entrepreneurs that I know to just like find something that works. It takes about 5 years to figure out which way is north. Right? Yeah. And then it takes like another 5 years. And a lot of people, that's it. Like they restart, they go off, crash and burn. And it takes another 5 years to build something that can create generational wealth. So it's about a 10-year slug. And here's the really hard truth about it. If you have a job right now, for almost all of that 5 years, you quit your job because you don't want to work as hard as you are and you want to make more money. And as soon as you quit, you will realize that you are now going to work way harder than you were and you're going to make less money for an extended period of time. The one benefit is that you get to claim all responsibility for how little you make and how much you work because you're like, my boss is an idiot and it's me. But it's the truth. And I think that in some ways, having that optimistic ignorance is actually one of the really redeeming traits of entrepreneurs. And one of the really hard parts is that the biggest jump you have to make gets so immediately reinforced from the freedom you have from being able to, chart your own path. But that big success of quitting one thing and starting another, you need to immediately forget. And I think that fundamentally, that is why so many entrepreneurs keep doing it, is because the first time you do it, it's the biggest rush ever. You quit your job, you do the business, and you get some first traction. And that first dollar that you make when the new business is like the best dollar ever, right? But it's such a strong reinforcer that what does it reinforce? It reinforces stopping what you're doing and starting something else. And so I think one of the fundamental errors of entrepreneurship is that sometimes the jumping ship to start this thing is the lesson that you need to immediately unlearn, because after that, you have to just stick with it for a very long period of time.
What I have learned in 14 years, and I've learned it a good 10 years ago, I'd say, is never choose a business, always choose the entrepreneur. I have sat there and listened to business plans that I don't even know what they're talking about. It makes no sense to me what they're talking about because it's not a business I know or I don't understand the terminology. And in the old days, I would have thought I was too stupid, but now I know I'm smart enough that if I'm not understanding, it's okay. I'm probably still smart. But I have to be really smart in making the choice of the individual. Do I trust this person? Can I visualize them going through a wall? What's their background? Are they good at getting back up? Do they have ambition? Not passion. Passion's so overrated. I feel passionate. We really wanted to do this. Like saying you're excited about your first date. Who cares? Wait till you marry the lady and see how you feel. But I think the commitment and the drive and the ambition is what I'm always looking for. You know what? I think in hindsight, if I wasn't dyslexic and I didn't have a hard time in school, I don't think I would have been successful, believe it or not. Because I think everything I've done in my life has been one long attempt to show the world that I'm not stupid. So I'm driven. The difference between the really good ones and the ones that don't make it are the ones that don't make it know how to be a victim. They feel sorry for themselves, they blame the next guy, and they don't take the responsibility as their own. And that's what an entrepreneur does. You're the boss, it's your problem, period. It's your problem, it rests with you. Now what are you going to do about it? I'm not very nice or fair-minded with rich kids. The problem with investing in a business owned by a rich kid is usually raise money already rather easily. It's not sweat equity. So you got a chunk of change to get started. Okay, that's nice. Now you would think that would make things easier. I think it makes things difficult. You don't spend your money wisely. It's Papa's money or your parents' friends' money or wherever you got it from. So it's not valuable money. And I've seen more people stand and say, well, we pivoted. We lost that and we pivoted. What happened to the guys that gave you the cash? What happened to them? No regard at all. Okay? When you get a poor kid, they typically have something to prove. They really have to stretch every penny. It's their own money. They're dying just to get a little bit more. There's so much a greater need. And there's also a desire to do well in living in their life. They want to go on vacations. They too want to get a sports car. They want to get a nice apartment. These rich kids have had it all before. They've been on vacation everywhere. They've always had rich cars, rich parents. So I think it's so much harder for a rich kid to succeed as an entrepreneur. I just love poor kids. And I have to tell you, out of my whole portfolio, I don't have a single rich kid who succeeded. School is tough on kids that can't learn. I was one of those kids, myself and my two brothers. The other kids were A students, but we just couldn't read, we couldn't write, we couldn't learn. And what happens to a kid when you're in a school situation is you judge yourself based on school grades. What else do you have? Someone could say, she's such a nice girl. Well, that might sound good, but if you're getting all Fs, you feel terrible. You just feel terrible. And so your sense of self, I think, is formed very much by how good a student you are in all school systems. And it shouldn't be, because it's just one kind of intelligence, of course, but it is that way when you're a student. You sum yourself up based on whether you could get good grades or not. It's as simple as that. I had been working for the Giafuni brothers, two developers in New York City, as my first job, answering their phone as a receptionist, and decided to go out on my own and start a real estate business. But I needed a listing. And so I went to Mr. Giafuni and asked him if he could just give me one listing that I could rent out, an apartment to rent. And he gave me his worst, 3L, which was on the third floor in the back, which had previously been a superintendent's dark apartment. So looking at this, I didn't have a lot of money to spend. I had to place one ad in the New York Times, that precious ad, how to describe that apartment to attract customers in. And so I thought about it. And finally, after looking at columns of competitive ads in the Times, I had an idea and asked Mr. Giafuni, could he build a half wall with a double entrance that separated the L in the living room from the rest of the living room, because most apartments in New York had L-shaped living rooms. He was willing to do it because I told him I thought I could get him another $40 a month. Not $300 that he wanted, but $340. And in went my ad. 1 bedroom and den, $340. Competing with all the other apartments that said 1 bedroom, $300, $310, $315, something like that. And I got probably 80 phone calls, because who the heck would want to go in and see a 1 bedroom for, say, $300 when they could get a 1 bedroom and den for $340? And that phone never stopped ringing. And I ran that ad again and again because Mr. Shifuni gave me every one bedroom he had and built a wall in every unit. When I read about this show, I thought, of course, this is perfect. This is right up my alley. A few days before I was supposed to fly out to LA and go on to the Shark Tank set in Hollywood, I got a call from Mark Burnett Productions, his assistant, who said, I'm sorry, we've changed our mind. We're not going to hire you, but we'll use you as a fallback. How insulting. A fallback. And so I sat right down and wrote an email. And in the email, I told Mark that I understood that he had asked another girl to dance instead of me, but I was much more accustomed to coming in first. And I cited for him the worst things that happened in my life in very brief form. Donald Trump said I'd never get a penny of the $4 million commission I had to sue him for and won. Sister Stella Marie said I'd always be stupid, and I'm not. The Old Boy Network in New York said I'd never succeed and compete with them until I became the #1 rival. And I asked him if he'd invite both women out for the lone female seat and have us compete. And I went out there, his invitation, he turned around, and I won that seat, thank God. Imagine what my life would have been the last 7 years if I didn't have these 38 wonderful entrepreneurs in my life helping them build their business. What a waste and what a shame. But I had learned by then the importance of getting right back up and come back fighting. And that's what got me that seat on Shark Tank. I don't think I'm the type of person that is brave enough to admit I've made a mistake, honestly, because I think things have not worked out along the way, where things just didn't work out as I had hoped or dreamed them to be. But I don't see them as a mistake, because as quick as you're thinking, oh, poor me, you start to see the light of the door that it's opening that couldn't have opened without it. Okay, so I don't have like a regret of this was a big mistake or that was a big mistake. But I have to also say I have my whole life been very cognizant of doing anything and exposing myself to anything, even when I didn't want to do it, because I'm deathly afraid of feeling like I would regret. Like, what if I don't do it? That's more of a motivation for me than doing. Like, for example, with Dancing with the Stars, I did not want to do it. I'm an old babe. The last thing I want to do is practice 4 hours a day.
You were great.
You think I was so great? Not the judges. They didn't think so. I was the #1 person on Dancing with the Stars last season, #1 rejected. Now there's a record, okay? But so you might say that was a mistake with all the work that led up to, and it was a social embarrassment. I thought I'd be rejected maybe #3 or 5 or 6, but #1 I never saw it coming. And so I was kind of a little mortified on that one. But you know what? I'm so thankful I did it, and the minute I recovered by the next morning, I'm like, thank God I did it, and thank God it's over. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Because I didn't want to, I said yes because I didn't want to wonder what it would have been like.
I learned that you get back up and all the opportunities and getting back up. Just got to be a habit of getting up. You get up and you're going to find something that you can do something with. Just get up. That's a habit. You have to make that habit.